And
Looking
so,
forward to your presentation. Design system from bookkeeping to championing. Enjoy and
yeah, I'm ready to start. Thank you.
perfect.
Yeah, thank you for having me, for inviting me to speak in front of all these wonderful people and having some nice and well professional fellow presenters. So I'm very honored to be here. And I'm going to speak about measuring design systems, but not only. You will see. So in the formal title is Design System from Bookkeeping to Championing. And before we start, I would like to tell a bit about myself. I work as independent consultant, a front-end engineer and engineering manager, but design systems are my major focus. And I started with libraries of components about 10 years ago, before the term design systems even emerged. And by that time, my focus was more technical, and so was the focus of the community. We were paying a lot of attention on how to code the components, how to document them, and so on. But slightly by today, I changed my focus to more process and people oriented. And I realized that the biggest obstacle on the way is the gap between specialists, designers and developers, product people and business people. And in the meanwhile, I got design education and it helped me to see picture at bigger scale. And nowadays, even though I still do a lot of hands-on architectural front-end work related to design systems, I shift to more engineering and project management and educating and engaging people. And this talk is a brief overview of how I get data about design system projects I'm involved in and how this data becomes a basis for managerial decisions about the design system. And unfortunately, due to NDA, I cannot share with you the exact the data or screenshots of the tools we are using. And so I prepared imaginary examples specifically for this presentation, but I hope that's for good because you can probably borrow the idea and apply it to your project. And let me start with the story. This story is based on reality, but the depicted characters are fictional and all the matches are random. So once upon a time, there was a design system team. And once they realized that their backlog is too large for them, they had a lot of great ideas and not so much resources to implement that all. And so they went to the money guy and asked for more resources. Basically, they wanted that the company opens a position at their team so that they hire helping hands. And they were sure that this addition is needed, and especially for such a great internal project as a design system. But apparently, the money guy had a bit different opinion. And it was not the problem that design system was bad or they didn't perform. The problem was uncertainty. Everyone in the company knew that design system is cool, it is a great thing, it is helping us, but how much it is helping us, no one knew. And the business had no idea what design system team is doing exactly and how much value it brings to the business. And the design system team itself operated only with feelings. So they kind of felt that they are doing great thing and they're going towards right direction, but it was only feelings, not knowledge supported by any data. And that story happened to me personally. It was not exactly the same, but something similar. And it was years ago. In that story was the first push towards measuring design systems. In initial push was to convince the money guy to open a new position to the design system team, but actually it grew into something bigger, which I'm going to introduce to you step by step now. So measuring is a hot topic, measuring design systems nowadays. And there is a lot of available articles and talks, very good ones that explain why, what, and how we should measure design systems. And when I started with this presentation, I also was thinking to elaborate on these three questions. Why to measure, what to measure, and how to measure. And I even prepared 30 slides for that. But perhaps these slides will like serve me at some other conference, because while preparing, I actually recollected that story and I asked myself a question: when? So so thinking of what happened with this conversation with that money guy, how we convinced them, I actually realized that if we want to get an idea of what we should do now, we have to analyze our past and imagine what we are going to do in the future. And when I started measuring, I didn't expect where it brings me. But apparently, it finally turned into the data from the past. It bridges from the past to the future, and it opens new perspectives in the present and new ways of working and new focuses. So let's see step by step. So if we analyze the past, we can measure many things. But one of the most obvious metrics would be to measure their production costs. In short, how much design system is saving us. And now there will be formulas and numbers. Please forgive me for that. I will try to make it as smooth as possible, but they are needed to get the idea. So let's imagine that we have a component to implement, imaginary component, say a button. And if we are implementing it in one project, doesn't matter if design system or not, but to design and code this button, we have to pay some production time. And once we are starting to use the component, we have constantly pay the support costs, meaning that the design and development team using their time for bug fixes, for like providing changes and so on. And these support costs, they have to be paid for the whole lifetime of the component. And altogether, we can multiply and sum up, and we get how much resources producing one component would take us. And this is only for one project. If we are having many projects which have similar component, but they are not reusing it, and each project implements its own and supports on their own through the whole lifetime of the component, then we take these codes and multiply to the amount of projects that these components is used. So this is a situation without any design system. Like each project has their own component. And if we have design system, then these costs are a bit splitted. So we have the same amount of resources needed to produce the component in the design system by the design system team or by the contributors. But at the projects, we are just reusing, taking the component into use, and we are not spending these production costs. But integrating the component from design system to the project is also not free. So we have to take it into account and pay integration costs, usually only once, but at every project where this component comes. And altogether, we can sum up and calculate that design system has produced the component, and the projects, that many projects integrated the component, and altogether it gives us the costs which we spend when we have this component in design system and reuse it. And where to get this data from? This is, I guess, the most interesting question. Here you can be creative. It very much depends on your organization and on your projects. And I will share my experience and also give you some ideas. So the production time, it can be just assessed by the design system team. This is what I did at my recent project. So I just asked the design system developers how much time it would take for them to create each of these components from scratch if it didn't exist. And this is like survey approach. But if you are good with task tracker and the design system work started with like proper task tracker, then you probably can obtain this data from task tracker. And another idea, you can document the time. Just if you came to the idea of measuring before you have design system and the component, just ask the people who are implementing the components to document how much time they paid to create this component. Um, then the support costs. This is pure estimation. Yeah, it can also be obtained from task tracker, but I think it's a bit more complex. So for the support costs, I personally go with pure estimation, and I think that would be enough. For the integration costs, you can again ask people, in this case, the users of the design system. So just how much it takes to get the button into use from design system, how much it takes to get the login component, and so on. Or if you have access to the task tracker and they are accurate with using it, you can get this data from task tracker or again from documented time. You can also go from estimation, like a design system team itself can estimate the integration costs, but this would be a bit worse than ask the design system users. Then the component lifetime, this we know for sure. We can obtain this data from version control. If we are using Git, for example, from Git history. In the case if our design system is more technical oriented, or if we are more design oriented, we can get this data from design files. In amount of projects, we know for sure. Again, in my case, I was using GitHub search, searching at GitHub Enterprise, who is linking the library and who has the component in the code base. And it can be done either through web, if once, but also you can write a script. We have at my project, we have custom script which uses GitHub API to get this data. And data can be also gotten from Figma through statistics, or you can just run a survey so that like you ask people, users of design system, if they're using design system, what are the components they are using. And then you can operate this data. So let's take an example. Say we are implementing a button component and I estimate the production time for it is 10 hours and the support costs I expect 20 hours every year. And component lifetime would be 3 years, meaning that we have implemented this button 3 years ago, and now we are looking like how much it cost us through the whole 3 years. Integration costs would be 2 hours, and amount of projects this button is integrated is 5. And with the formulas introduced previously, we can calculate that, okay, without design system, we implementing the button and we are supporting it through the whole lifetime of this component at 5 projects. And this is 350 hours of work. With design system, we also implementing it and supporting it through the whole lifetime, but only once, and we are integrating it to the 5 projects. And this is 80 hours of work. Then we can see the difference and conclude that, okay, having a button component for 3 years integrated into 5 projects, saved us 270 hours of work. So that's the approach on one component. And of course, we have to calculate the whole system. And okay, before we come to that, uh, yeah, I want to challenge myself and ask how accurate is this calculation? Maybe not very accurate. So maybe we cannot precisely calculate how much hours we spent, but these formulas don't have to be perfect because they only help you to start the conversation with the business. So when they are bringing them the methodology and the tools to calculate, the next step would be that together you can create better formulas and for your particular organization. And management most likely is much more uh, handy with that as product people, so they will help you. And if we extend this to the whole design system, here I used some table to calculate and say I have imaginary design system of three components, a button, input, and hero. They are a bit different, and so I paid different time to implement each of them. Some were simple, some were more complex. And button and input are quite long with us, but hero we implemented just recently. We also pay different support costs for them, and integration is different. And not every project uses every component. We have the acceptance number here. And with the formulas introduced previously, we can calculate how much it takes to have these components in design system or to have these components in all the projects that are using it. And from that, we can have this number. So basically having design system of three components saved us that many hours, which equals to almost 19 weeks or 4 months of work. Wow. Yeah, impressive numbers. And I'm sorry I cannot share the exact numbers, but they were wow. And if the organization is large enough and design system is mature, we are speaking about millions of euros. And so that was about measuring the past. Besides the production costs, we can also measure other things like availability of design system, how easy it is to start, how fast are updates, quality of documentation, level of support needed. Or we can also check the involvement and contributions in the design system and then analyze it further. But for now, let's stay only with the production costs. And let's go forward to the future. In the future, we can measure the process of design system. Frankly speaking, we can, if we know our workload, we can check if the resources we have correspond to that workload. And by workload, I mean some features we want to implement in the near future and regular routine work like bug fixing and supporting the teams and so on. How you get this number again vary depending on your particular organization. So it's again good idea to use task tracker because in this case you can obtain this data from task tracker. Um, yeah, or you can of course always just estimate. And we know the given resources, we can apply the resources to the workload and build the models and see if we are managing or not. So let's see now. Here there will be even more numbers, but with charts it's possible to follow, I guess. So let's count our chickens. Let's say that we want to implement something, some new features, and we estimate that it will be 200 hours of work. Also, we know that the design system team every week, besides implementing anything new, they just have this support routine work for 15 hours, meaning bug fixing and like supporting other teams and so on. And we know that one person, designer or developer, can work 20 hours a week. In here, it like all the meeting times and everything it's excluded. And so we can calculate for every week, like the supports adds us 15 hours every week, but at the same time, like the people are working, and with one person we are moving that fast, with two people a bit better, and very good with three people. And these numbers are much easier to follow in charts. So let's go here. So in here, there are three lines. So we can see that how it goes for one person, for two people, and for three people. And our goal is actually to approach the zero. And we can see that, okay, we are good with two people. And we are even better with three, but probably it's not needed because in reasonable time, we are achieving what we want. But let's challenge our model. Have we calculated everything here? Or maybe something had forgotten? Sure, we can introduce one more number here, meaning the support acceleration. What is it? When we are implementing more and more features, introducing new components, the workload organically grows because the new teams and new projects are getting the component into use, and they are starting to report bugs which design system team has to fix, and they probably have some questions design system team has to support them. And so the support grows from week to week. And here I estimated that support acceleration is probably 2 hours every week, but we stay with the same resources. So these columns, they don't change, but the workload from week to week, it grows faster because of the support acceleration. And we can see it in the chart. So in here, okay, we were good with two people, but apparently if our model is improved, we can see that, okay, we are not meeting the deadline and probably we will never meet it. So what can we do in this regard? Say that, like, of course, yeah, we can ask for the money guy, but the money guy has questions. Have you done everything? Have you used your resources wisely? Maybe you can change something. And so let's think where we can get the resources from. What if we count on contributions? Like there is a design system team, but there are also people at other projects who can help us, and they can partly do the design system team work. And this is called contributions. And we assume that the contributions in the design system are equal to 5 hours of work. This is an addition to our resources. In this model, the workload stays the same as in previous, but besides people working at the design system team, we also have the contributions. And so in the chart, we can see that it becomes much better, these two people line. So we are almost here, but still not there. So and our only, seems like our only way is to increase the team to have three people, convince company to pay more money. But what if there is no resources in the company for that? What if we only can stay with two people? Let's see what we can change in our model to achieve the goal. So, like we are already working hard, but say we want to increase the level of contributions, and we want that our fellow developers and designers contribute equal to 10 hours a week, not 5 as it was. And how can we achieve this goal? This doesn't happen itself. We have to do something. So basically, we have to invest into the community to do some work ourselves in the hope that this investment brings us benefits. What exactly is this investment? It really depends on your project. It can be workshops with your fellow designers and developers so that you probably teach not so active teams how to contribute and they are becoming your contributors. Or it can be pair programming or co-designing with someone who is already someone who already knows how to contribute in design system, but you want to increase this level. Or you can invest into making better documentation for the people to contribute into the system. It all depends on your particular situation. But the key idea is that you pay some time. The design system team makes additional work, not only this 200 hours of work, but additional 25 hours in the hope to increase contributions. And this changes workload because it grows, but it also changes the resources we have. And with that, finally, in the chart, we can see that, okay, now we've done everything we could with 2 people. And finally, we are meeting our goal. So that's the idea of building these models. And basically, a lot of numbers. But with these numbers, we can set up the goals and we can build hypotheses and models. And we can validate these hypotheses through the time and improve them for the future. And with that, numbers and charts, we can speak to the business. Because what happened in that story I shared is that to convince that money guy, the design system team analyzed their past, proving how good design system is, and analyzed their future, demonstrating how wisely they are going to use the additional resource. And it opened the door to the conversation in the present. And apparently, it is success story. The money guy was happy and the design system team got what they wanted. They could hire helping hand into the team. But that's not the end of the story, because the money guy liked the numbers so much that he said that, okay, I want to know these numbers like constantly. I want to have access to them. Report me what the reality is. And this brings us to measuring the reality. Basically, it is the same data we had already operated with counting past and future. We get instant access to this data and it guides us towards different direction. Yeah. So same data, but instantly available. And before I show you how we operate data, I want to share where to store it, because it is from that there is a conclusion what tools we are using. And in my experience at different projects, there were different attempts where to store such data. There was company wiki once, and there was internet website built with Gatsby, and there was a documenting system, will not share which one, but available online. And apparently there were many good things in these choices, but it was not good for the business people because they wanted to operate with this data maybe later in their systems. And what really worked was Excel or Google Sheets. So in the project I'm involved in it is cloud Microsoft Excel, but for this presentation, I just created a copy in Google Sheets and I will share the link. So what is the data calculating in these Google Sheets? The custom script I mentioned, it crawls through GitHub, company GitHub using API. and it gets knowledge of what components from a design system are integrated into the projects. And this data is transformed into CSV, and later this table put into Excel. Where you get this data from is not a key thing, because like if your system is more design oriented, you can get this data from Figma statistics, or you can simply run surveys. It doesn't really matter where you get data from, but finally it gets into Excel. And here I would like to share with you how we operate this data. So I have to open another window because it's functioning. So this is a like imaginary copy of the tool. Here on the top we have a like usage matrix. In reality, it is much bigger because there are almost 100 components here and dozens of projects here. But to get the idea, we just go with 3 components and 3 projects. And here we just mark, this is all automatically from that script that makes CSV. So from here, we know that, okay, all the projects are using button, only some of them are using input, and some of them are using hero. So this is the matrix. Uh, it is showed here in the same document, but in reality, it is a separate document because it's formed automatically. And what you see below, it is the tool. So basically, in here, there is a select, and we can choose from like all these components. Say we are interested in button, and the tool calculates us in how many projects this button is integrated. How many are using the button from design system? And here, like it's more extended data than in the situation when we calculated the past, because here we can see what projects exactly they are, and we can like, I will elaborate on that later, but we can approach these particular projects if needed. And yeah, and the number, of course. So that's the tool. I will share the link to the slides, and you can have link to this Google Sheet as well later. So that's the tool. And how we can use this tool? What are the workflows? Basically, say that library has critical updates in particular components, and using these tools, we can know for what projects this update, this critical update is like the most touching, whom to warn in advance. Or probably even before we have made this critical update, maybe we can even before find out the teams of these projects and invite them to the conversation. We can warn them about upcoming changes, or we can invite them to co-creation, and maybe that update doesn't become that critical for them. Also, we can see if someone is not using the component, we can ask why. Do they need help? Or maybe we need to change something, or maybe they need just a bit of support. And with that tool, design system team can search for contributors, because most likely the contributors would be those people that are using the components. And this is not only the tool for design system team, it is also good for the teams themselves, because they can search who else uses the same component, and they can have conversation even without involving design system team. And it is again resource saving for design system team. Okay. Yeah, but actually good that it helps us to find where the components are used at which projects. But actually we are probably not interested in that, but we are interested in people. And for that, we have to store the knowledge. Who are the people that are making these products? And for that, in this example, also Google Sheets is used. And in here, the teams are like columns, so webshop team, landing factory team, and company website. And here are the people which are doing these projects with their roles. And if it's the company is large enough, we can use the like different tabs for different departments. And this is quite simplified because this is only the list of people. But in fact, you can also store information, for example, about like if this particular person is a contributor to this particular component and so on, depending on how much resources you have for obtaining and operating this data. For example, one of the ideas which I demonstrated here could be color code the people based on a recent satisfaction survey if it's not anonymous. And this will give us information that, for example, Alex is very happy with design system, but Jess is not so happy. And probably if we want to approach this person, it's better to process their request beforehand rather than just asking something. And so this stakeholder map can be also extended if we want to add heads here. If we have departments as tabs, head of department can be here. And we can have, for example, separate tab for company level. So, and with that information, we can actually link it to the tool I showed and have the output, not like that, the projects only, but like the following. So when selecting the component, we can have we can horizontally have a list of projects where this component is integrated in, and all the people involved. So this gives us a tool based on reality for managing the stakeholders around design system. And I know it might feel boring because it's just Excel or Google Sheets, but actually it was a good choice of solution because it is open in company solution, and everyone, not only design system team, has access to that because this tool is available for everyone in the company. I mentioned already that design system team can use it, and the teams can use it to connect, but also business people and management people can use it too. For example, if we are speaking not about a button, but about some more complex functional component, this is a huge help. Say there is a login component with a lot of logic in the design system, and in the company there is a dedicated team which manages this login process. Then they are very much interested if this login component is used from design system or not, and who exactly is using the login component, who are the people. So and so actually, if to analyze the all things pronounced, it turns out that when we count in the things from the past, aiming something in the future, it brings us to the present where we again have people. Not components, not numbers, but the people. And so basically, uh, this emerges the question who, and we are like the people in this regard, they are a source of data here, and they are aimed to connect with. And if there are people, if they are people from the project, we obviously ask about experience with design system, about integration costs, probably about coverage of UI. If they are design system people, we ask about production costs, about support costs, and if the current contribution model works. If they are business people, we ask them if we count correctly, And we also align with them. It opens the constant conversation and it helps us to align with them on business challenges too, because they are more aware of that. And of course, to every one of them, we are wondering, are they satisfied? How much we could help? And also, can they help us? This people thing in design system world, it is quite mature effort. And there is a lot of cool and wonderful talks and articles about uh, people role in the design systems. And all the time, people say what is the key for the success to boost your design system and to maintain it further, to make it accepted. All the time, people say that it is people. And I'm saying this too. So basically, to boost the design system, you have to focus on people, and luckily with the calculations you can to focus on right people and you can connect to them. So now it is proven with numbers. That's it. So thank you very much for listening. These are my slides. I will share the link to the Zoom chat and to Slack as well. And if you have questions, we have some time to answer them now or later. You can connect to me anytime. I also would like to use this opportunity to invite everyone interested to my workshop, hands-on workshop, varia.me, and the conference attendees can have a discount with InterDS code. So thank you. I hope it was useful.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maria. That's exactly what I was looking for. Like, or I really need if I calculate like the client projects and design system project. I've always been looking for something like this. Have you ever thought about putting this in a tool, in a web app or something? I'm not the Excel person. For sure I know how to use it, but to create kind of a dashboard or something like a tool.
Mm, yeah, was it a question or did you share?
Yeah, I mean, do you have any plans to put this online in a tool or something? I mean, this Excel stuff really look
Well,
cool.
yeah, well, actually, no, because it was the previous attempt. When we had that internet website built with Gatsby, we paid some time to make fancy React components operating with data, but and it looked nicely, but it was only useful for the design system team. And as I mentioned, the much more valuable was to have the open solution that everyone in the company has access to and has experience with. And for business people, it is much easier to have it in Excel. Maybe it's not looking that fancy, but that's not the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Amazing.
interesting.
Are you going to share the Excel file or
Yeah,
something?
sure. I yeah, sure. If you go to the slides, uh,
Mhm.
you can have where is it? Yeah, there is
Ah,
a link
it's
here.
there. Ah, yeah,
And
yeah,
you
perfect.
can go
Awesome.
there and you can
Yeah.
borrow that. I actually didn't show that. Okay, all these calculations they are done with these monstrous formulas, and
Woo.
in reality, if it's even worse because here we are in the same sheet, but in reality you are referring to different document, but you have to do it only once. And also, if you have one Excel Ninja in company, they will help you once, and then you can just use it.
Amazing. I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything before in the design system world. I've always been looking for something like this because then I can tell the PM, I can tell the boss, hey, do you really want to make those changes? It costs like to maintain or to create those components. we have some numbers for you.
I was
Yes, they
also
like numbers. They like numbers, so this is what I experienced.
I was curious to know what people would think how much each component costs as you were talking, and so I created a little poll in the Slack, and we have a lot of votes around $100 per component, but most people are like, I have no idea, and I'm guessing like I just that was the limit I put, right? I started with 10 cents, $1, $10, and $100.
Oh, they actually have an auction in the company.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yeah. Who implements it cheaper?
That's really fun. Could be turned into a game. But yeah, we have 3 minutes before the break. So let's try to cover just a couple of questions. And yeah, then people can contact you afterwards, or you can continue to fill the details in the mirror board. Right. So we have the first question is, how much time do you/developers spend doing this calculation per project? It seems like traditional cost estimation of developing a product would be better, and you simply estimate the time to develop the component. Time plus hour rate equals cost.
The estimation for the whole system was, I don't know, maybe it was made once and maybe 10 minutes time. Yeah, because there was just an Excel sheet with the components. Should I share it now? Just a second. So that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just developers estimated like for all the 50 components they implemented out of their memory, how much it costs.
Okay. So actually it doesn't take that much to set it up, and it's worth the time.
Oh, and you're doing it only once for every component.
Right. Okay. So for the next question, can you please tell more about trackers for production and integration costs? How do you track how much time it takes/saves?
At the moment, we go just with service. So we ask people how much it costs, because in the company uh, I'm working at now, there is no unified tracker. Well, everyone is using the same tool, but how the tracker is shaped, it is different, and it's not so easy to obtain this data automatically. So we just go with service.
Cool. And do you count in hours spent on learning design system? Say if you have a new team member, I guess they have to get familiar with it.
Um, I'm not sure I understood the question. Like,
so the hours that you're counting is just to develop the component, but are you also factoring in the time that you have to spend to learn design system? Like, so in the example of having a new team member, they will spend time to get familiar with the system. So is that also included in this calculation?
in this system, no, because like we are not that often have a new team member, and I guess the onboarding should count separately.
Right. And can you tell us more about how you check the usage of a component in a project code base?
Yeah, basically, in the first run, it was just using GitHub web search. So you can just write there like button and see the code of the projects if the repositories are open. And not all the repositories are open, so that to have access to private repositories, we made a design system like robot user and asked all the teams to give it rights, to view rights to their repositories, so that this robot user could have access to the code base of all the projects. And the first run was just using web interface of GitHub, but it's too much manual work to do it constantly. So I ran a script that uses GitHub API, but it performs the same search. So it goes to GitHub with the like search string, and then it gets the search results, and from that it knows like in which repositories uh, this particular component is used.
Cool. Well, I hope that this answers all the questions. And yeah, it was really an amazing presentation to see all these numbers. It's quite mind-blowing.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad it matched the expectations.
Definitely.
Yes, definitely. I mean, amazing talk. Thank you so much. I was looking for this for a long time. Now I will reuse the sheet for sure. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing.
yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm glad that I'm part of this amazing conference.
Well,
Amazing.
we'll be seeing you around.
Yeah, greetings to Finland.